downtown Huntsville, running the downtown organization. You hear about downtowns a lot. It's kind of a hot thing, and it's not always just downtowns. In Charlotte, it's called Uptown. In Atlanta, it's Midtown. Or you go to Nashville, it's 12 South. But we're talking about these walkable, mixed-use, urbanized areas, right? That's what people want to be these days. And in particular, it's the people they try to classify. For whatever reason, someone made a lot of money calling some Gen blank. So I'm Gen X, 42. No one talks about us, right? No one cares about Gen X. Baby boomers, talk about a ton of those, right? Larry's generation, man, they spend all the time analyzing, they're retiring, getting prepared for death, and all that kind of stuff, and like, what's the economic impact of that? Gen Y, which is probably most of y'all, really start, where are you going to work, where are you going to be, and then Gen Z, which is actually, to me, just as interesting because they're freshmen in college right now. They're coming up fast behind, and they have a lot to do with Gen Y, or the millennials. Really needs to do a quick history lesson. When we first got started as people that gathered in this country, we gathered around natural resources. So rivers, a lot of cities were founded on rivers or in ports. A little bit later it became of mineable natural resources, so then the Birminghams came along. And so what happened is people were kind of stuck to those natural resources. The coal was where it was, the river was where it was, and the port was where it was, the deepwater port, and you're kind of very sticky to that place. That became a little bit less important in the Industrial Revolution, so we're very agrarian, became industrial, and we built these huge factories. The thing about a factory is hard to move. It's not very portable, it's not very movable. And so people went to work for the factories. The Industrial Revolution came along, people were sticking around in cities. Lo and behold, what happened next was that it was not natural resources nor industrial resources, it was human resources. It was human capital. It was the brains inside of your head that became what people competed for. You all are the most portable generation in the history of humankind. Your retirement is portable, 401ks. Your health care is portable, Obamacare. You're getting married later in life. You're having kids later in life. You're buying houses later in life. You're buying cars later in life. All of these things mean that you have less connections to the place you are. Okay, it's easy to leave when you have to break a 6 to 9 month apartment lease versus I got to sell a house with a mortgage. And so what we've realized is that we have to compete for people more than natural resources or industrial resources. And competing for people means that you have to figure out what they want, okay, because they have opinions as opposed to rivers that don't. They just flow, right? And so we've really done a lot of research, and what we've learned is that it's called social herding. This is a great example. The days of more formal organizations like Kiwanis or Lions Club or Rotary or these kind of organizations that baby boomers and others really clung around because they wanted to gather around other people. I mean, humans haven't changed. We want to gather. It's just how we gather. And you all are gathering much less formally through Facebook groups, through Reddit AMAs, through this type of thing, right? And so we have to adjust if we're trying to recruit your brain to stay in our city or come to our city. We have to know what your brain's thinking, and you socially gather in different ways. And one of the things we've learned is that by and large, it's true. It's a bit of a stereotype, but it's statistically true. Is that for Gen Y and Gen Z and a little bit my generation, salary and benefits are important. You got to feed yourself, but the quality of life, the quality of that experience and getting that salary is just as important. Okay, we had some really early canaries in the coal mine in Silicon Valley, and people started. But the idea of working for a single company and living in a single city your entire life, that used to be a great source of security and comfort. Now it scares the crap out of you. Who would say, man, I'd love to start with Big Blue or Texas Instruments and work my entire career with that company and retire at 65 and get this huge plaque and a fruit roll and really know I spent my whole life doing something. No. Okay? I was talking to Glenn Clayton with Appleton. Any Appleton people in here today? Glenn was talking about their average expectancy of an employee is about 36 months. Okay? Not because they get rid of them, but because people now, these days, test drive cities. And they test drive innovation. They test drive where they work. And so as we know, we get a much shorter window to impress upon you some of the quality of lives. And so we've really, in downtown Huntsville, focused less on these 2 or 3 year projects take to get built, but we focus on something like a craft beer. All right, what about craft beer? Well, craft beer is, especially in this context, full of entrepreneurs and innovators. The whole idea that you got to write code to be an innovator or entrepreneur, that some people still think, to be an innovator you have to be tech centric. Well, I would say brewing beer and doing it right, yeast is a living thing, can be just as hard and just as innovative and just as entrepreneurial. Same with making great chocolate. Same with making guitars out of cigar boxes. Okay, and so what we've really embraced is the culture of innovation. And so as you see some of this stuff, we call the collective, speaking of innovators, coffee's the same way, coffee's the same way. A difference between an awesomely brewed, craft brewed cup of coffee and Folgers in the break room is miles and miles, okay? And so we really, as Downtown Huntsville Inc., said we're going to embrace entrepreneurship and even more than that, innovation. How do we do that? Well, first of all, we try to create spaces. We work closely with AL.com, and we really brought this idea to them as, hey, you have this amazing space with these amazing windows and technology, blah, 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 and it goes dead after 6 p.m. Stop doing that. And to the Advanced Media Group, Alabama Media Group's credibility, they said is, okay, yeah, we don't really want to compete with private, spaces, but if it's a nonprofit group or an informal group, yeah, come on up here. What are they charging you tonight to use this space? Nothing. Right? Because they want to foster that innovation. Now, if you're selling tickets to, Chris Beeman comedy show tonight, yeah, you're competing with private venues. That's one thing. But up here, you're gathering, okay, in what I would say the modern version of a Rotary Club, right? You're gathering with common interests, but less formally, and so they charge you less. They charge you nothing. And this is the type of thing someone looks back and says, well, DHI, what do you do? We worked really, really hard to work with Alabama Media Group and Advanced Media Group to say, a thing like this, you don't need to charge them $500 minimums, okay? You just trust that when they come in here, they're not going to steal the TV, right? They're not going to break the windows. They're actually going to be innovating. And this is the way they gather, okay? There's no more lunch or breakfast meetings, with a speaker and rubber chicken. This is the way it is. And so creating that culture, promoting that culture is what we're trying to do, that culture feels not just recognized, but welcomed here. That if you come to downtown Huntsville and you think it's a quirky, funky idea, that we'll celebrate that, and the idea may end up sucking, but we'll let the market determine that, but we'll give you a chance for it to be great or to suck. Okay, and so we get a lot of people come in and say, why don't we try this? Tom just walked in. Shelby Ward's a great example. Bought Rock City Espresso from Tom, and really wanted to find a place to serve amazing coffee. And we're talking B60s, AeroPresses, all this stuff that is craft, okay? If you think you're good at writing code, you may not be as good as writing code as he is at brewing coffee. Does an amazing job, okay? Doesn't have to be tech-centric. I couldn't find a place for him. He started a little trailer that wasn't quite working, and there's a little room in bell cuts and lofts. And we said, what if we take this space and turn it into a pop-up cafe, okay? Now you go there on any given morning and you cross-section. You see fancy lawyers to innovators to you name it. Okay? That's about creating a culture just like this space or that space where you can come in and innovate. And it could have sucked. Okay? We're not afraid of that happening. And at first, the first couple of days, I thought it might because there weren't people showing up. But what happened is people caught on. They can sit in those chairs. It took the developers, Charlie and Sasha Seeley, to come buy in. And so that's the way you promote innovation in a setting like this. We could have said, is, hey, Shelby, we'll help you find a really good 12-month lease on a coffee shop in downtown. Yeah, that's not what was going to happen. Now, maybe because he's had that track record. So that's what we're doing here. If you wonder, why we put putt-putt holes all around downtown or things like that, it's quirky, it's eclectic, it's fun. It's not meant to be too serious, but I also recognize that innovation and entrepreneurship is a very serious thing, and it's a very broad thing. So that's kind of my spiel. I'm not going to tell you, the city center is doing this and things like that, but I want you to know that we're not part of the city contracts with us to do downtown, but we're aligned with the city, that if you have an innovative idea, we're going to give you the chance to succeed or fail on a level playing field. And if you say, hey, I want to do blank, and it seems outside the box, we're more likely to recognize that. And if you say, hey, I want to open up a sandwich shop on the square, that's great. That's going to happen on its own. But some of the quirky things that you all can do, some of the entrepreneurial things you can do, bring them on. We'll embrace them in downtown Huntsville. So with that, what questions do you have? Hope that wasn't too esoteric, but it was intended to show you that, we're serious about what we're doing.
My question is, get people funding?
What's that?
You help people get funding?
Yeah, it depends on the idea. I mean, every idea that comes in, we don't, but we have actually given funding as little as $50 up to a couple of $1,000s. We work with Makers Local. We've worked with them on a fair number of projects. We came up with an idea, how do you create an interesting place? And they put a bunch of LED lights inside of some beach balls and floated them down the canal. That's a $100 project. But you see the pictures, you probably still, you haven't seen the iconic picture of people just like looking at these beach balls floating on the canal in Big Spring Park, right? And so that was just a fun little idea, and we can do things that are more serious too. The downtown book boxes, which are our version of the little free libraries, worked with AL.com. They had a bunch of extra newspaper racks because they don't sell as many newspapers, and they're online and stuff now, and worked with the library. They supplied the books, worked with the Arts Council, and they found the artists are local. And now if you walk around by our office on Washington or right outside here, in fact there's the Von Braun, you can borrow a book for free, okay? And you don't have to go to the library. The library's closed. These are open 24/7. And we took our twist, and those cost us $500 each by the time we pay the artist and do a few other things. So yeah, that was a quirky idea, and now it's getting a lot of publicity.
So can you give us a little background on Downtown Huntsville as an organization, what it is, it's a nonprofit, how many people work there, why it exists, that kind of thing?
So we got started in 2013. I'm the first CEO and president of Downtown Huntsville Inc. Was hired, first started August 1st, 2013. The organization started probably in April, and when we did a search for a leader. And we're a 501c6, some of the Arts Council, the Chamber, membership organization. We get a percentage of our funding from the city. They justify that because as we do things, every taco you buy from Crave Heat or every lobster roll you buy, you generate sales tax, and we've become pretty good at convincing people to buy food from trucks. And so the city funds us, we have members that fund us, we have sponsors that fund us, a little bit of program income, but I will say this, 95% of our events are free to attend. We try to level the playing field. If you want to come to a street food gathering, bring your picnic and listen to the free band and hang out with your friends if you want to. Love for you to buy stuff. Want to come to Grotto Lights concert, want to play the putt-putt, want to do the pop-up parks, all that stuff is free to attend. And that's the gap we try to fill. So our goal, probably a good analogy I used it this afternoon, is we're more like air traffic controllers. There's a lot of people trying to land planes in downtown, the Von Braun Center, the Art Museum, all these different events going on. What we try to do is coordinate it. We don't own it. We don't control it. We're not the boss, okay? But our goal is to try, so if there is a really interesting concert going on here and here, maybe there's a way on the front end to work together that we could, make them on 2 different nights or things like that. So we're a downtown advocacy organization, and our goal is to make this a more interesting place. Tom?
Sort of a follow-up to that. There have been weekends, these are rare weekends in Huntsville, but there have been weekends where there is a lot of different things to do that seem interesting, but it becomes a little bit difficult. There might be a great concert at Low Mill. At the same time, there's a food truck rally. At the same time, there's something going on somewhere else. Is there an effort, or could there be an effort to sort of balance that a little bit, planning-wise? I know that a lot of the organizations control the events and not you guys, and so I understand that. But in the past, I've seen it like, man, I'd really like to go to all of these events, but it's impossible because they're all at the exact same time. So I'm just wondering, is there...
Yeah. We look at through a little bit different lens. We actually, in some ways, that's a sign of success.
True.
That if you have to choose between going to a comedy show at Flying Monkey, going to a great band at Yellowhammer Brewery, going to something at Tangled Strings, going to a hockey game, or going to a free concert, that you have these choices in these type places. Any city you want to be in, Austin, for example, tonight on a Wednesday night, there's probably 15 really cool things that we could get all those going on. We're working on getting 2 or 3 each night, and then we're just not there. And so when I say air traffic control, I talk about major things like these super huge things like Brewfest probably doesn't need to be on the same weekend as Pro Bono Brews, or we try to work on these type of things. But at the same time, it'd be awesome if it's really hard for you to decide to do what to do tonight in downtown Huntsville area, because there's so many freaking good things to do.
Agreed. What's sort of on your horizon for goals for the next couple of years? I know that you extended your your term was extended. I don't know the language to say, but
Yeah, signed up for 3 more years.
right. So, what are some of like the long-term goals for downtown Huntsville?
Yeah.
Is it just more events in general, or are you working with like city planners and the city to chat with others?
Yeah, a lot of the most important stuff we do doesn't get seen because it's behind the scenes trying to work on things, trying to make life better. Something as simple as Clinton Avenue from Washington to Spraggins is going to be 2-wayed. You may have noticed because the light's going up. That doesn't seem like, what's the big deal about that? Well, it makes life more convenient, and now you can turn off Washington and get to the VBC or get in the deck. A lot of the public art, if you've seen behind our office at Humphreys, something as simple as there's a new Straight to Ale bike rack. It's Straight to Ale's logo, it's a bike rack. Those seem like that's just a throwaway thing, but there's a lot of thought goes into those. So we use a baseball analogy. You need to hit home runs. That helps win a game, but singles and doubles can be just as successful. In fact, the really good teams hit a lot of those. And so for us, it's about the events are only a tool to foster a creative, innovative environment. And so I love the pop-up parks. I love the pop-up parks because some of these people come up with just these crazy, like last year's human foosball, this year it was the human billiards. I mean, they come up with these really ideas. The park in and of itself is a means to an end. It is giving people an opportunity in a legal way to express their creativity and create something interesting. And by the way, it's always free. And so that's what we're going to do. You scale that up as things get more interesting, but we'll never be we're not going to grow into start charging for things and things like that. We want to be the people that create an interesting experience that can be experienced on every single level, no matter what your socioeconomic status is.
What do you consider downtown? I mean, where's your kind of home range? I mean, are you Campus 805?
Yeah, we gerrymander. We're really good. We try to gerrymander anything interesting. I haven't figured out how to get Old Black Bear into downtown Huntsville. It's a cool space. I haven't been out there. I'll give them credit. No, we talk about the downtown core. I mean, it's a traditional area. I mean, around the square. It grows from there to, some people would say, the Parkway, to Governors, to California, and I talk about the downtown area. It's not like we have walls on gated cities anymore, where now you've into the, Low Mill, is it in downtown? Well, if it's not in downtown, it's in the downtown area, and people that live downtown experience it, and soon people that'll be living at Low Mill, because there'll be a lot of interesting development going on there, will experience downtown. We talk about the core and the areas that surround it. I think Low Mill, Lincoln Mill, Merrimack, Medical District, Montesano, Blossomwood, all those areas really have a symbiotic relationship with downtown. Just like in Nashville, East Nashville, Germantown, 12 South, the Nations, those areas have a symbiotic relationship with downtown. I hope you don't do everything in the downtown core. That'd get old in a hurry. But I hope that it's all in this general area.
What kind of new commercial developments are coming here that people can look forward to, like restaurants and bars? There's Pints and Pixels. When are they?
Really focus on hyperlocal. Pints and Pixels will be the first ever Pints and Pixels. UG White's the second UG White. Focus on those, but know that also there's a certain segment of the people. I mean, you all are a segment of the people. There are some people that really want to go to a restaurant they're familiar with. And so a place like Jimmy John's plays an important role. In fact, there's even in your email, grab a Jimmy John sandwich and go on over, okay? Because there's a certain predictability there. Someone knows what they're going to get when they get number 5, right? And so we really focus on the hyperlocal. So a lot of the things that are coming, you may be like, well, I've never heard of blank. Well, you never heard of Sam and Greg's probably until they opened up, or you never heard of Old Town Beer Exchange or Straight to Ale. So really focusing on the categories. Green Bus Brewing's a great example, going right there on the southeastern side of the square. It's going to be the first nano brewery in the state, which means that they brew on site, don't serve food, and you can only buy on site, as opposed to a brew pub, which brews on site and they serve food and they also distribute otherwise. Green Bus Brewery, if you want their watermelon ale or whichever one is Jason's really popular, you got to go there. And so it's going to be a unique hyper-local experience.
It's now past 6:50, so I just want to thank you so much for coming out.
Yeah, that was a quick TED Talk. Thanks, guys. And I do appreciate what you're doing. Anytime I can help on these kind of things, my email is chad@downtownhuntsville.org, our social media channels. And I don't, you may like, oh, here's a, 42-year-old balding white guy up here talking about this innovation, If you don't assume that I'm just, giving you a spiel, I won't assume that you're just playing a role either, okay? I think this innovation is important. It's critical. It's what's going to make the city. Your minds are the natural resources of the modern world, okay? And we're in a competition with other cities for your minds. We recognize that, and we're going to try to win that competition by making this an interesting place to be. So
to your point about, say this last thing about encouraging ale.com to let us use this space for free, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
I'd love to see this space get used, every other night of the week by NASA space groups or, defense organizations that need, space as a way to, bring more community groups downtown. I mean, we've thought for co-working night, it would be cool if we could get more user groups. Downstairs there's a writing group, but they're the only one of their kind. Let's use this space as a community space.
I think that's all on the table, and I think if you ask, we can help with the ask, but they don't say no very often. So I think with those groups, encourage those groups to ask. Thanks for having me, guys.